Man is singing about I'm going through, or I'm going to make it through, no matter what they do. That means that's a direct message to some. For instance, what we doing? This is the first time it's been a little crew here in the Masjid, but we going through. We don't even think about. You haven't never heard of anything about, oh man, the boss man getting he really and no matter what he do, he don't get you no rent, don't beat you upside the head, you know. In fact, think about Dr. Franklin and that talk on Black Power, and he talked about the town Negroes against the country Negroes, right? The well-to-do Negroes, which wasn't that many, against the poor Negroes. And he talked about, now, the Black Power movement was at its peak at that time. He made that, I guess it was 69. Okay, that was the peak of Black Power. They was talking about it. At that year, we was doing that. We was doing that in Oakland. Okay, why were we doing that? Is because it was just natural. You know, it was natural that maybe we called it East Oakland Enterprises, but everything Martin Luther King and them wanted to do and other people talked about, we actually implemented that. Why? Because we were young. You know, like that's why all my friends is dead, because I was younger than most of the. In fact, all of the old time, big time gangsters, they all dead except one or two. Because I was the youngest. I mean, I was so young, it was ridiculous. You know. Okay. That's also why we were inspired, because of our history, to implement that type of a program. If you did all your time, a lot of your time in prison, and you led little prison riots and different stuff like that, you know, that mean that you really thought black. I mean, why? You know, a white man told me in 1959, he said, Reams, you're race conscious. I had to think about what he was talking about. And he said, and you're a punk artist. He called me a punk artist. Well, that didn't mean I didn't mess with white boys, but I specialized in weakening. You know, and he was mad. He said, you're a punk artist and you're race conscious. And I didn't even pay no attention to him, but I thought when I would walk into a new company or a lodge or whatever they would call it, whatever place I was in, when I would walk in the door, before I sat down, I had counted up in my head, because sometimes you would come walk right into the locker area or something like that, and everybody would be sitting there. So if it was 60 people, when I would walk in, I would automatically count how many blacks, how many whites, how many Mexicans. I would do it automatically. You know, I did that automatically. Other people probably didn't. But before I sat down, because your security, everything depended on that. You know, and even suppose it was 20 blacks, 20 whites, 20 da-da-da-da-da. Or suppose they try to keep it balanced, but suppose they only had 10 blacks and 20 or 25 of every other. If you had a strong leader and there was only 10 of y'all, it was fine. And I learned that stuff. Maybe it was natural, but I already did that. I'm telling you, I wasn't even a teenager when I started. I automatically, and the police, they got they give you little grades. A 3 is average, a 5 was super good, and a 1 was you just blew it. You just got some incident report or something. And so if you got a 2, you felt a little bad. You got a 3 is average guy. So every day they had a little chart and they'd put if you got a 4, your shoes were shiny, you just, did some little boot licking. If you had a 5, you almost got a commendation. And then they had it the other way, if you got a 1, you was perfect. If you got a 5, but it was that system. Okay. Now this is 1959. I'm down in the Beaver Lodge Ranges. I'm in the Ranges. This is a company at Frico Ranch School for Boys, and the police told me, "You're race conscious." And I thought the man was kind of crazy because I was just thinking maybe he means I'm conscious of how many niggas is in here. If you don't have the right amount and you just be knots upside your head and all that. It's a reform school. It ain't no playland or nothing. And so he told me that, and his observation was absolutely correct. As I thought about it years later, when I would walk into a new company, lodge, whatever they call it, before I sat down, I done already looked around and because everybody's sitting around their lockers or what have you. I done already counted everybody before I sit. When I walk in with my bedroll, I done already looked up and counted in my mind how many niggas here. That's right, boy. Because you got to know what your position is. Okay, whatever they call it, I already did that. The other thing is about the things that our people went through over a long period of time. And they left out those parts that we talk about from time to time here. I was saying that when that on Boss Man, I used the perfect combination. One combination about black nationalists, he already knew about them. He knew about them. But I was the little boy sitting around my father. You got to remember, my father was born in 1900. That means, and I was a younger, so he was 45 when I was born. So all of his friends, when I'm growing up, are old. You know what I mean? They all born around 1900, 1898, like my aunt. That's his friends, and so I observed them and I absorbed their attitude. I didn't know what I was doing then, but I would sit there and everybody else wanted to go play or run around. So I would sit there and listen. And I don't know, I might have played one of the tapes once from my father was speaking. And I saw a program last year, might have been earlier this year, about General Grant on last letter we got from him. It was April 23rd or something, 1934. And that was 84. I said, good God Almighty, that was 50 years ago. But I still, myself, I can remember stuff like that now that I can remember back 50 years. You know what I mean? That's the way people thought. They didn't write as much. Just like the Arabs had a perfect memory, not a perfect, but a good memory. They could memorize, right? Okay, before we start writing a lot, we remembered a lot of things. That's oral history. Like the griots. Okay, so, well, technically that's the way my father was. But the point I want to make about this is, and I think I've mentioned it before, and this is part of our job too. It's definitely part of our job. They was talking about Vicksburg, Mississippi, and that's right on the Mississippi River. Louisiana's on the other side. They said, yeah, we troops swam the Mississippi River 3 times, and they was pitching white folks with bayonet. You know, you've been working all the time, right? They was, he said they was pitching white folks like, you know what I mean? That's the way the niggas was doing, you know. And I thought maybe the memory is all right. And then he told me, he said, yeah, the black troops we had to, a lot of them got killed. He said, but we swam the Mississippi River 3 times. I said, swam the Mississippi 3 times. So I was coming Louisiana, then I see a sign, Mississippi River. And I keep going. You know where rivers go in an S like sometime? I'm going straight across, next sign, Mississippi River. And the next sign, Mississippi River. I said, this is when I'm making speeches all around. I said, good God Almighty. Everything he told me was correct. Then I saw this program last week about General Grant's, one of his first big battle was Vicksburg, Mississippi. And so my father was telling me, well, the black troops really helped in that, and they was going down the river on, he was trying to think of the name. I said on rafts, he said on rafts. And then all of the, when he would talk about the people, he said, old man so-and-so, he didn't get a pension because he run off. And then he was talking about the other ones, they got it from the Civil War in his time. Remember, he was born in 1900. The Civil War was only 35 years before. It wasn't, you know. So anyway, and I'm watching this thing on public TV just the other day, whatever it was. I don't know if y'all saw it, about U.S. Grant, General Grant. And everything they said on that fit exactly what my father said. Exactly. The colored troops, the black troops, they lost a lot of troops, and they was on the north part, and I said, good God Almighty. So anyway, the point I'm making is, other people don't pay no attention to that type of thing. Just like when you hear this program, the old ship of Zion, the sounds that they're giving off and the cadence that they're giving off, all of that stuff, that's part of our history. And a lot of people forgot it. I never, not only I didn't forget it, I liked it. You know what I mean? I actually liked it. I liked it then, and I still do all right now. You know, the point is this, is that one of the reasons that there's no continuity in the movement is not only during my generation when we adopted black power and all that type of thing, black nationalism, we let that old other, that was moaning and groaning, colored history. That's, in fact, Elijah Muhammad, and you go in, I think they done took it down, but they used to have a American flag. They used to have a rope. Christianity means slavery, suffering, and death. When you went into the temple in those days, that's what they had. Christianity, slavery, suffering, and death. Okay. Although Elijah Muhammad, 90% of his lectures he took from these preachers. The whole concept, he just blacked it up a little bit. Yes, 100%. And the more I see this old thing and hear, I thought he made up Ezekiel wheel. I thought all of that stuff the lamb did. That lamb, man,